GameWorn Radio is on the air.
Hey! Justin scores! Up in the Cordova, baby! We're going bowling. Now, let's go hunt moose on a Harley. The fires, he scores! LA face with an Oakland booty. Scores! Make me a bicycle club. They score! Bowmeister paid that man his money.
GameWorn Radio.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining me this week. This is Derek with GameWorn Radio, part of GameWorn.us. Tonight's topic is going to be photo matching. I'm sure we're going to be able to get a bunch of content out of this. This might even span over a few radio shows, so this will be really fun. We've got the usual group here, and our new addition is Eric Scheffler from Florida. Eric, how you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm down in Florida. Big Everblades fan. I like Tampa Bay and a bunch of the Syracuse Crunch players I collect.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. Today's topic is going to be photo matching, so I'm sure you guys have a lot of good information about that. I know it's definitely a passion of mine. I'm sure you guys have a lot of so we're definitely going to have a lot of good topics here. If any of you guys are listening here on the panel, make sure you stop listening since we're already live. However, I don't want to lead off the conversation just because I could talk about this topic seriously for hours. It's a huge passion of mine, and I could go on for days. So I'm going to let one of you guys take the lead, and I'm just going to jump in, primarily because I don't want to dominate the conversation. Don't all jump in at once. Let's start with Doc. Doc, tell me a little bit about your experience photo matching.
I've been lucky. I mean, a lot of us in the hobby know. I mean, there's the standard ones, Getty Images, the whatever your local news that covers it, their team's Facebook pages, things like that. When we posted talking about this, I think I shared on our message board that I just photo matched a pair of Mike McKenna, who will be on now in 2 weeks. Sorry for the confusion, but matched his Devil's gloves that I have to him doing a video for Total Hockey about those model of gloves, and he was using those to show what his looked like compared to the factory ones, and they had all the exact marks on them that I've got. So it was kind of another neat way to match those up. But there's all kinds of weird places you can find photo matches, and it's fun. It really makes when you get that jersey in, and just like you did, Derek.
And we lost Doc.
Jesus,
Doc, are you back? Did we get you back, Doc? All right. Well, that's my terrible connection, and thank you, AT&T, for that. But I think what Doc was leading to was a few of my photo matches that I have myself. I know one of the cool ones that I have is definitely going to be the goalie pads that I have. I've got Thomas McCollum pads, and I photo matched them many times. I've got one photo match to an NHL game that he first played in. I ended up picking him up directly from the team. So that was a really good experience for me. And as Doc was saying, there's so many different places that you can actually use a photo match. Doc, do we got you back?
Yeah, sorry about that.
Hey, not a problem.
But yeah, just to finish up, is you don't know where you're going to find them. I mean, random from cards. I used to have a pair of Tony Twist GameWorn skates, and happened to pick up one of his cards somewhere and looked at it and photo matched the skates from that on just randomly. Looked at it, recognized the marks, and there it was. And I mean, that's always keep digging. That's one of the coolest parts of the hobby is you get those marks and trying to pin them down to certain games or certain things that happen, and it really makes that even more a cool piece of memorabilia.
Oh, definitely. Now, one of the things that I see a lot is people say photo match, photo match, photo match, and then they don't specify what it's photo match to, and I hate that. That's one of my biggest pet peeves. So if you got something photo match, you have to disclose what exactly it's photo match to. And a lot of people just post a picture of a player wearing a jersey and say it's photo match. That's not the case. You have to have an artifact on the jersey. So when it gets down to those specialty jerseys and things like that where they're wearing them for one game, you're probably not going to find a photo match. And that's okay. It's to be expected. But if you're saying photo match, you actually have to have some sort of artifact on that jersey or on that piece of equipment that makes it unique. Would you agree?
I disagree with that because I have a Phil Housley jersey. It's his last GameWorn jersey. It was with Toronto, and the guy literally wore the jersey for a minute and 19 seconds. That's how much game wears on the jersey. Nothing. There's like 2 little tiny marks on the jersey, but photo matching is not just you get a rip or team repair or slash marks or whatever. Every jersey is unique. There's always something different about every jersey because they stitch every jersey differently. So for example, jerseys like that where the use is very minimal, if it's one game or 2 games or whatever, a great place to look for photo matches is the nameplate, because the nameplate is always different on every jersey. So I don't think it's that cut and dry where you need an actual artifact on every jersey or a blood stain or whatever. It's photo matching is a delicate process. It takes a lot of time, especially for jerseys like that. So no, I wouldn't go that far.
Well, I can kind of agree with that a little bit.
It's much cooler though when you get like a tear or a puck mark and you can identify it to a specific game or an event that actually happened. I think it's pretty cool when you actually find a jersey where you're like, especially goalies, where you can pick a puck mark and you can match it exactly to a game. It's pretty cool.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, who wouldn't want that over I've got a single photo out of Getty Images. It shows a fucking loose thread on it, right? Like I would much rather have that, but it's you're not going to get that opportunity with every jersey. We just talked Stanley Cup Finals jerseys last week. How much wear do you think a fourth liner Stanley Cup Finals jersey is going to have on it, right? You might be talking about a guy that plays 2 games in the Stanley Cup Finals for 5 minutes a game. So, and it doesn't take away from the jersey. It's still a great jersey, but you might have to. I get what you're saying. I love jerseys with heavy wear. Prefer them, but I mean, in my case, Phil Housley played 1 regular season and 4 postseason games with the Leafs, right? So I was ecstatic when I was able to photo match mine.
Do you think a jersey has more value? Like if we're talking about Stanley Cup and they use them so limited that if you actually get one that has a puck mark on it or a tear and you can identify it, do you think that jersey actually carries more value than the other ones?
Well, I think if there's a question of authenticity, it does. And for me, I think right off the bat, no. But I think that when you have to sell that, if you want to turn around and sell that jersey in 30 years from now, and the kind of information on the way in which the team sold the jersey or who sold the jersey, if that information is lost in time, you're absolutely going to want to have that photo match. Especially, I mean, I think that the trend as these jerseys become more and more expensive is there's going to be more and more fraudulent rip-off jerseys out there, and that's why I think it's especially important to photo match this stuff, because I think there's going to be a lot of doubt in the future about the legitimacy of if someone wore something and when it was worn and who bought it. And I don't think LOAs, for me, LOAs don't really do that for me, because I've bought jerseys. I bought a jersey with a really good LOA signed by the player, it turned out to be fake. So for me, a photo match is absolutely the most important thing.
Marco, on that, and I've run into the same thing with the LOA from a player that turned out to be fake. But I think there are different kinds of photo matches to me. One being photo match to wear, which is probably the most rock solid, and then there's what they call a thread match, and then what you're talking about with the nameplate and or number positioning, I call that more of a style match, because to me, just because a jersey has, whether it's a, black, red kind of CCM tag doesn't make it a match to me, but it's a style.
No, of course not. Of course not. But I'm saying when you look at the nameplates, every nameplate is different. For example, one player's nameplate might have the S completely off center, tilted, whatever. And for me, when you can look at the all 8 characters or 10 or 12 characters or whatever or what have you, and pretty much layer it on top of what you have, it's fairly conclusive. And if you look at vintage a lot, because the photos are grainy and shit like that, they don't show a lot of shit. It's a lot of how people do photo matches on vintage gear. And for me, I would take something like that as more proof of evidence over an LOA by a company that doesn't fucking exist anymore.
Right, over an LOA, absolutely. But I don't. I have a hard time calling it a hardcore photo match, as to especially vintage, where obviously the resolution of photographs aren't what they are these days.
Well,
The
I think there's varying differences of levels of what you would call a photo match, right? Like mine, the Housley in question, where he played 1 minute and 19 seconds in the jersey, I have it photo matched to the back of his nameplate, which shows the S elevated in the end where the LY is, kind of like sagging down. Like if you look at it collectively, you can pretty much say without a doubt, in my opinion anyways, that it's photo match. But I also have a photo match that there's the fight strap on it is centered over one of the numbers, but the fight strap was installed on a tilt, and you can see that tilt. So I think collectively you have to look at everything, and there's no real hard set fast rule in terms of what a photo match is. Because if you guys remember, are you guys did you guys ever look at that legendary auction for the Gretzky that was up about 6 months ago?
Vaguely.
Gretzky's Oiler jersey, rookie Oilers jersey, and they claim they had a photo match. And I mean, if you look at it, it's questionable. It's kind of like, if you guys have done this, but you're trying to photo match a jersey for 6-7 hours, and your eyes start playing tricks on you. Are you like, is that a mark? Is that a mark? There's a little like pixelation here in this photo, which might be a mark. So I guess there are varying levels, but our hobbies never determine what those levels are, I suppose.
I mean, I can definitely back you up with the positioning. My only qualm with that is if I want to stitch a jersey, I can stitch it pretty damn close to another picture. However, where is a little bit harder to get exact, especially when it comes down to location, shape, darkness, things like that. So, I mean, I can definitely see your point of view, because I've got a couple jerseys, players with really long names, and the Red Wings, they don't actually have a name plate. They stitch it directly to the back of the jersey. So on the Reebok 2.0s, you can see the lines of the sides going up the jersey, and the player's name has to get stitched over those lines so you can distinctly identify the tilt and the location and things like that, as well as your fight strap example. So I can see that for sure. But if somebody really wanted to fake something like that, I think it's a little bit easier than signs of wear, even coming down to specific threading. So it's really kind of a give and take situation for me.
Yeah, you got those ones that are super, super conclusive, right? Like a player like rips a sleeve in half and the team does a major, massive ass repair, and who would ever go to the trouble, unless we're talking like a Gordie Howe jersey or something, or a Gretzky jersey, something crazy to try to ever emulate that kind of wear. Of course, I'm with you on that. But I think when we talk about photo matching, the real topic we're actually talking about is authenticity and how it adds value to the piece. And I think that photo matching is a part of that. When you have my gray tagging, that's a good level of authenticity for me. It's not as much as I would want, but it's
There are
getting
a
there.
lot of fake tags out there.
I know, no, there are. I've seen, the My Gray group. I think we talked about this before with the GROOP and all that shit. But I think you call My Gray up and you're gonna find out right away if it's fake or not, right?
Yeah, it's not hard to do the research on them.
No.
Yeah.
So I think it's all about collectively deciphering if a jersey, because as much as we want to talk about vintage, and vintage has so much wear on it, and there's just so many marks and team repairs, and everything is so unique. Because you get into the modern stuff, yes, there's more images, but some of these players wear these jerseys for their one-game wonders, right? So it where do you draw the line, I guess?
Oh, Marco, how we collect such different things.
What?
But I mean, I think a modern jersey these days with the availability of images, if you almost have to match them. I mean,
I agree.
migrate or not, the there's so many images out there, and if you look daily, you can find high res 4 meg images out there. Um, you can find high res images, and a modern jersey should almost always, unless it's like a Winter Classic or a Stanley Cup final where it's one game, one period kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
these days, every single item that I get in, I immediately start looking for a photo match. If it's '07 or newer, I look,
I don't
and
buy anything
generally I
unless there's a
find.
photo match. I
What's
will
that?
not buy it. I'm not. It's for me. It's not the risk right now. I know I could tell. I turn around and probably sell the same jersey if I'm getting a good deal. Make a few $100 off, or if I'm getting a great deal, make $1,000 off of it. But for me, I don't want to sell the jersey. I want to sell the jersey in 25 years from now, and that's where a photo match is going to be extremely important, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, on my computer, I keep a folder of all the photo matchings and all the different jerseys that I have that I photo matched, even equipment, and I keep it there. So if I ever get rid of it, whoever gets it can have them, things like that. And I mean, it's becoming a pretty expansive folder.
I'll take that, Derek. I'll take that one step further. I keep a running collection of photos of players for jerseys I don't even own yet, because I don't know when those media resources are not going to be available anymore. For
That's a
example, I
lot
have
of
a
data space.
Larry Murphy jersey, and that jersey was photo matched to this company called Magenta Images. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that site before. It was around. I think it went out of business about 2 years ago. But I got a actual photo shipped to me a week before they went out of business, and it got me thinking, Jesus, man, if I hadn't done that, I might have never been able to, in my opinion, legitimize the jersey entirely. So I'm a bit of a freak that way, and I'm already kind of thinking ahead, if you know what I mean.
So how do you
I,
decide
And you
which
know
ones
what?
to get?
There's a company like Argentina Images or something
That's
that
sorry.
folded.
It was Argentina Images. My bad. It was
Yeah,
Argentina.
that was like a year and a half ago. I found
Yeah.
the jackpot of Blackhawk photos from like the 50s to now, and they must have had, 15 to 20,000 Blackhawk photos. And I was trying to Dex and look them up, and then I left the computer on trying to copy some stuff, and I looked morning, the site was completely down. So
It's
yeah, I wish that site was back up.
You know what? When I emailed that guy, he wasn't even concerned about money. I'm like, "What does this cost?" He's like, "Don't worry about it." He's like, "Just email me." He's just email me your address, right? I'm like, "You want credit card information?" He's like, "I'll get that off you after." And I got it, and it went. So he was a really nice guy. I forget his name. I wish I could reach out to him, but I think they all knew that company was going out of business, and it's so sad. That's one of those repositories where they take actual printed photos, and their job is to put them on the internet. And now those photos are ending up on eBay, and unless you're going on eBay and taking screenshots or buying them up, you might never see that photo again. You might never be able to photo match that jersey again, and it's so sad. It's so sad for the hobby.
Yeah,
Marco, I've done the same thing. Any high res fight photo, I'm keeping because
Oh,
I may own
guaranteed.
that jersey at some point. And a lot of those 8x10s that you mentioned, I bought a ton of the vintage Capitals ones. I probably got about 30 of them. I emailed the guy and said, make me a deal on, you know, 30 of them. I got them all downstairs, and I
And you
don't
know what?
I don't own any of them, but maybe
But you
one day.
might,
Yeah.
right? And the quality on some of those photos, as long as you have a good photographer, oh my God, it is amazing. You can see everything. You know what's even better? A lot of the times when I'm sorry to keep going here, but a lot of the times when you're buying off these photographers, these sites, they'll actually have the negatives, and if you ask them, they'll mail you the negative. So if you are still having a hard time photo matching the photo to the picture you're buying, or if you have a really small mark on the photo and you get the negative, you can take that negative and have it blown up to whatever you want, right? For negatives, I forget if anyone knows what the equivalent of a photo negative is to a megapixel camera nowadays. I think it's about 30 megapixels. So, despite the fact that yes, the images are a lot clearer now, if you can obtain that negative, you're still doing really well for yourself. You still be able to conclusively say, without a doubt, if your item is photo matchable or not.
There was a eBay seller selling negatives a while back too. I bought one on a Mike Eagles jersey, which I don't think I own. Um, but he was selling for like $3.
It's a great deal.
Yeah,
Not kidding.
yeah.
Yeah, it's way above my level. I just kind of use a very limited number of resources. I
No,
never
but
even
I mean,
thought to keep that
there's a
big.
site out there called Alamy, Alamy. Um, it lets you buy, and these are non-Getty photos. These are their own hosted, I guess, freelancers have partnered with them. But you could drop a PayPal and get a high-res image for $12, which, you know, if Getty was smart, they would kind of get into that a little bit. But instead,
As soon as we're done with this conversation, I'm going on that site, Alamy.
yep,
Never
yep.
heard of that move.
It's
What
it's
we should
literally you
do,
can find a coupon code and get a pick for $12, and there's a lot of non-Getty photos on there, because nowadays Getty does at least give you a larger picture instead of the thumbnail
But
kind
I
of.
think you brought up a really good point in that Getty's the place that most people are going to go for photo matching, right? Are we all in agreement on that?
first place, yeah.
It's usually the first place you go, yeah,
Right.
just because of the
Why,
database it has, yeah.
why can people like all of us on this call not buy images directly off Getty? Why? They're missing out on such a gigantic market. I don't understand it.
Your guess is as
Well,
good as mine.
I think photographers are, um, you know, they treat that as their gold, and they're afraid to give it away for anything less than what they're willing to, you
Yeah,
know.
but look
I
at
mean,
Spotify.
but for example, if Getty were to give their high res away to the public for $50, I mean something even that to me sounds high, I bet you they'd make a killing on it, and the photographers would too.
Look at the music industry, okay? The music industry basically said, we can't keep up with pirates. It's impossible. We're broadcasting, music. Anyone can copy it. So now we have services like Spotify where you can get you pay a subscription, sorry, and you get access to that music. Why is it not? I don't understand why it's not the same thing with something like Getty. I mean, come on. They're way behind the times. It's ridiculous. And let's not kid ourselves, okay? We all have sources to get these images anyways. And Getty knows that. They're not stupid. So what are they waiting on?
Yeah, the way the internet works now with instant pay and stuff, yeah, make those available to anybody and not just media people or people that want to pay an ass ton of money for them. Because yeah, they may feel like it's a hassle at first, but the revenue they could generate would be a crap ton.
The worst thing about Getty too is I've heard that they have image archives of stuff that's not even on their website, especially older things. And I've heard stories of people getting a hold of Getty employees that work in these archives that eventually do the research, find these images, and put them out on the internet at some point in time that you can view. And why don't you just make everything available? Scan every single thing, throw it up there, put it out there, make it for sale. Somebody's gonna buy it. I think their big fear is just the image itself getting out there, which unfortunately for them, a lot of times when they authorize the editorial image, it becomes available anyway for free. So I think that's one of the things that they do is if they're afraid that once the image gets out there, it gets out there, and it's the internet, so that's going to be the way it is. That they charge a ridiculous amount for somebody to use their editorial photos because that's the last they'll see of it.
They're
You know what I
behind
mean?
the times, though. This same thing happened with MP3s in the 90s. I mean, once it gets out. Look. Does anyone have HBO here? Anyone?
No.
Yes, yeah.
You guys have HBO? I don't have HBO. I'm gonna go pirate Game of Thrones as soon as I get off this conversation. Guaranteed. I'm sorry. But I mean, so look at a different means of giving it to the public, right? Look at different options.
Well, people pay subscriptions these days, right? So I mean, if they put a subscription out there where for X amount of dollars a month you can have access to the full res archives, people will pay monthly just to have access to it. And I mean, sure, uh, you'll get people. Hold on one second. You'll get people downloading a ton at a time, right? But that's going to be a small portion. A lot of people are just going to use it as they need, and they'll pay the monthly and they'll keep it up because they want all the new stuff as well.
Well, what about the use of Zimbio, which is pretty much the same Getty images? It might be a tad lower in res, but there's no watermark. You can, if you know what you're doing, you can look at the source or figure out the properties of the photo and do a save as. But it's exactly the same as Getty. There's no,
Yep.
I mean, I'm
Yep.
sure
I've never even heard of that site before.
Yeah, Zimbio is a good one because it pulls it from like newspaper and editorial sites that use Getty images, and if they're basically all higher than what you can get off the Getty thumbnail.
Okay, I'm thinking what we need to do is after the show, we need to get a meeting of the minds going and collect all these different websites that a few of us know about, but not everybody, and just kind of collect all these various websites that we can get these images off of. So I think that'll
Derek,
be my next goal.
you gotta post this on GameWorn.us.
Yeah, definitely will.
Do.
Another one is if you pre-order. There's a site out there that puts really high res out, but they don't last forever. It's called Sports Overdose. If you look up Sports Overdose, literally they'll be on the site for a month. So that's another one that I'll just grab high res fight photos or even caps photos that I find interesting or show where, and I'll just pocket them and stick them on the hard drive.
I didn't even
we're
know about
definitely
any
going
of
to
this
need to
stuff. This
collaborate.
is
Yeah,
great.
Sports Overdose is a good one. I've gotten a couple off of that. Lammy is one you can buy, of course, that I mentioned. So I got a whole bookmark folder of
Then there's
other
the
than
typical-
the typical Getty, AP, those ones.
Yeah, AP images, CP images. I've gotten photo matches off those sites. Those sites are great.
And then there's
Okay.
the typical Flickr and photo sharing sites, but it depends on what team you're watching. If you're a lot of the AHL teams, I know Rockford does. They have their own albums and everything. They post directly game photos out there, and then if you contact them, you can buy them from them. Or a lot of the times they'll only have the good ones they like, but they might have 10 of the same guy situation. They'll post that. Or if you're really like with certain teams I watch, you'll be able to figure out who's the season ticket holders that brings their high res camera to every game and takes pictures of everything. And you can find their out too, and you can, because Getty or AP or Zimbio, they might do pictures of the first period and warm-ups or the second period and warm-ups or whatever the case is. So you're going to only get one or whatever situation before they got to go back to the press room to release their.
See, that's interesting.
Where the fans are going to have picture all the games, or at the end of they pick their stars or whatever the case is, and you can kind of get marks for certain situations, especially when you have those players that wear 3 different jerseys throughout a game or 2 different jerseys throughout a game because they're wet or dirty or whatever the case, and they like a clean set every period. So that's handy too.
Imagine being a season ticket holder and some fucking weirdo game-worn jersey collector calling you and be like, hey, can you snap pictures of Ovechkin in this game? That would be the weirdest thing.
Well, the other thing is if you're doing minor leagues, and I've done this, I won the Hershey Bears specialty. I was at the game, but I wasn't taking pictures because I was too busy having a pop or two. And then when you have the auction, I'm trying to win a jersey. I'm not snapping pictures of all these dudes. I contacted one of the photographers on Twitter. What do you know? Got a picture. It wasn't as high res, but it was good enough that I wasn't going to photo match a specialty jersey anyway. It's more of a style match, if you will. But yeah, contact all these photographers are on Twitter too.
The photographers are a great resource for photo matching. I find one of the hardest things to do is actually figure out which photographers are taking pictures when. But when you can actually figure that out, it's easy to figure it out for the home team, but for the away teams, it's kind of difficult. And they will charge you a premium. I think I paid $100 US, which I guess it's not a crazy amount for an Ed Belfour photo match, but I mean, that's another great resource. And you know what? I much prefer that than Getty Images, because the money is going straight to the photographer, who is by all means usually a freelancer, and one of these just 9 to 5 guys that could really, typically, probably photographers are not. Your run-of-the-mill photographer is not going to make a crazy amount of money, and I would much rather give my money to someone like that.
No, that's a great way to do it as well. No, I think we should come up with like a database of what's out there, though, because I know I have about 15 to 20 sites bookmarked.
I'll definitely create a resource on GameWorn.us under the Collector's Corner, where we can just catalog all the different places that you can get photos from. I think it would help a ton of people.
So one of the cool things that I like doing, we discussed this a little bit before we went live, is that to me, photo matching and the research is the funnest part of the hobby.
Completely.
Other than actual trading, I get a kick out of that. Sitting there, I have 4 racks in my basement. They're cool to show off to buddies, but other than that, they're just kind of sitting there. I like, going through and looking through the research, or it was worn during this, and look at the wear here. I mean, that's the fun part, and I like actually photo matching it to oddball stuff, programs, banners,
Hockey cards.
Cards seem to have a uniqueness to them.
Cards are the best way, I think, because I think that what's going to eventually happen is I've seen people that can do amazing things with Photoshop, and I really do believe that the photo matches we're going to see in 5-10 years from now might not be as legitimate as people think they are. And so for me, a hockey card photo match is the absolute best thing to look for, or like a banner, like you were saying, or a program. Like, that's a real solid photo match from a source that it was printed and it's almost undisputable,
One of the things,
I agree.
One of the things I like
one of the ones I did, this was going back a number of years ago, and I can't remember the player now. It was a Blues one. The program came out. It was during the Migray setup. I had already gotten the jersey from Migray, and they put out the media guide later. And the hem is flipped up on the jersey, and there's the Migray tag and the set stamp upside down, but totally visible in the picture. So it's like, well, that isn't any more obvious. I couldn't tell what game it was, but there was the photo match right in their program.
I'll tell you, one of the hardest things about photo matching with hockey cards is the number of cards that are out there, and the fact that they don't always use last year, current year pictures. So you could be very well looking at a picture that's like 2 years ago, and you don't know. So you've got to comb through all these different hockey cards, and maybe even in 2 years you'll find a match.
I guess that's my question: is what's a good source so you don't have to own 10,000 hockey cards and try to go through them? What's a good source to scans that are high enough res where you could, without having a magnify and pull a card out of a box or a sleeve?
I don't know if they still do it, but Beckett used to have.
ComC.com is the best one.
Which is it?
In my opinion.
eBay too.
eBay is good. Yeah, eBay's great.
Beckett used to do this card scan catalog, and I don't know if they still do it, but for every single card that was in a set, they would allow users to upload a picture and collaborate a database that way. I don't know if it's still up. I haven't collected cards in 6-7 years, but that was kind of the big thing back then. So that might be worth a shot too.
Another one is Trading Card DB. They seem to have different ones that COMC doesn't have. So.
Have to add those to that list, that master photo.
Yeah, definitely.
If anyone wants a tip on photo match, you know how you can highlight over an image on eBay? It'll give you the high quality scan. But once you kind of click away, you're screwed again. So you can't, if you open up, there's this program in Windows called Snipping Tool. If you have that open and you press Control Print Screen, it will do a screenshot of your entire screen. So that's how. I hope my name's not out there, but that's how I'm kind of grabbing, photos off of eBay. If anyone's curious.
Do you want to know a little bit better way?
Yeah, of course.
This is how I scrape off of NHL auctions, so hopefully I don't get in trouble for saying this. But I'm going to step you through my steps to grab it from any sort of website that has it out there. So say you pull up the image and you click on the thumbnail and you hover over it and it gives you the expanded view, the zoom in.
Right.
Once it zooms in, take a right click, and if you're in Chrome or Firefox, in Chrome, you right click and you go to Inspect Element. Alright, and then you'll get that window below. You got a bunch of tabs. You go to Resources, go to Frames, expand the items in frames, and then there's a tab or a tree view for images. In there will be every image loaded on the page you're looking at. And a lot of times,
Can you do that on eBay too? Will that work on eBay?
Yeah, I've done it on eBay.
I've done that before. Oh, that's sick. I do that from now on for sure.
And that works for like the freebie, Folk Key and Flickr sites too, because they'll have whatever image, and it will be like a normal size, large, medium, 2x, and actual photo size. So some guys will send their actual pic from their Canon memory card or whatever, and it'll be like 50 meg in size, but it'll be locked from IE or no right-click tools. But if you do exactly what he's saying, you can get that original picture of the high reds of like 50 meg.
What sites are these on?
What's that?
Well, that's the trick is you got to go that method he just listed. Using,
you can't do that on Getty though. I don't think.
No, Getty's is behind an actual wall. This is only for images that'll load, but won't let you necessarily right-click or only have a zoom-in feature.
Right.
Because for the zoom-in feature, they still have to load the full image. So once that image is
You're
loaded,
gonna have to write an SOP for that one again. I didn't.
I'll throw it on the photo match little database thing that we create after the call. It'll be something I write up this week.
It basically bypasses the JavaScript that blocks the right-click and some of the other functionalities. So, yeah.
GameWorn.us is getting shut down next week.
Great.
By Getty. By Getty
Yeah.
or by these other image plates. Guaranteed. It's going to happen.
What are they going to do? I mean, it's technology. Everybody can do it. It's public information.
I'm with you.
Forget them.
I'm with you 100%.
As long as you're not selling it, then
That's
that's
right.
where you get into more issues. If you're selling it and making money off of it, that's where you get into more of an issue.
Everything else is fair use.
Yep.
I've done a
No, I'm
lot
gonna
of
sell it.
study
I'm
on
gonna
fair
sell it.
use.
This sounds very lucrative.
We'll just rat you
Sounds
out. And you'll be in
lucrative, guys.
trouble.
Yeah, exactly. The scapegoat.
All right.
What
Or
do
if
you
want
guys
to get a step
think?
further, there's a tool. I won't list the name. You guys can search for it. But there's a couple of tools that do a quote unquote website backup for web administration. So you drop your favorite hockey team, their photo gallery into that address, and hit copy, and it dumps every photo from their website as a quote unquote backup.
Oh, that's so awesome.
So
That's so great.
yeah, but it will spider everything. So it'll take the banners, the buttons, any link images and stuff like that. But if you whittle it down to just the photo gallery URL, you can capture, depending on the team, it will be that season or everything they've ever posted. So, but
Derek, you might want to put a little blurb like this radio show is for educational purposes only or something like that. So, cover your ass, man.
Whatever. I'm not too worried. I welcome it. It's fun for me. We don't make any money on this website anyway.
This will be the lost episode.
Yeah, this will be the one that doesn't get posted.
What are they gonna do? Sue me for all the money that I don't have? Yeah, we don't make money here. We're for the collector. Come on.
Hey,
We're in
what
the
do you
hole.
guys think the value is added to a jersey in terms of a percentage when you have a conclusive photo match?
I think vintage is, I mean, especially when you get into some of these late '80s, early '90s Bruins, Blues that were really hammered with all the fakes that were out. I think photo matching is a must. I mean, if you're going to spend a nickel on that stuff, I mean, I've been burned on it. I could probably think of a lot of collectors been burned on those things that had great LOAs or great, not from knockoff places, but from well-known collectors too, and yeah, turned out to be bogus. So I think vintage especially. I think modern jerseys it should have a photo match.
For
I mean,
sure.
yeah, I mean if you don't have a photo match, you're not looking. It's basically well, my opinion. But vintage, pre I don't know, pre 2007, I would say, like Derek suggested. I mean, they gotta have a photo match. I mean, vintage at least it increases it. I mean,
Is
by
there
a
a
whopping amount.
percentage you would say? Typically, can we put a number on it?
Um,
I'm
I
gonna
don't
I'm
know if
gonna
it's
throw
so
out
much a
20%.
percent. I think it's more of an attractiveness, if you know what I mean. It just makes it easier to
No
sell.
way. No, not an attractive. It's not for me. For
I,
for me, I'll pay a lot more money for something that's photo matched.
absolutely. I think
Yeah.
20% is low. I think
Yeah,
it's.
you might be right. Yeah, you're probably right.
I mean, if you're going to tell me, okay, I got a Cam Neely, and then I got a Cam Neely that's photo matched, Bruins era. I mean,
Yeah, but we were
I mean,
talking getting custom
that's
crafted
2x.
stuff
Yeah,
and all that stuff.
yeah.
Right, right.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's.
you're right.
Um,
I can see
I
that
mean,
for the vintage, but for the modern stuff, I don't see a lot of value added. I think
No,
it's more of
you can
a
just but yeah, but
secondary
you can just
hobby.
photo match that stuff yourself, really.
yeah,
That
Yeah.
stuff is all
the modern
has
stuff
proper
should be photo
tagging
matched.
and my gray and all that stuff, and usually, I mean, and with the value of vintage jerseys, they're not like, or sorry, modern jerseys. It's not like you're buying a $3,000 vintage jersey. You're buying a lot of these jerseys for $250, right? So who the hell's gonna try to forge a $250 jersey, if you know what I mean?
Right.
Right, right. I agree. But one of the other things that Neely that just did it on GameWorn that ended at whatever 6,500 didn't list a photo match, but I photo matched it um, actually to a card because I was kind of interested into it, and then it blew me out of the water. So I was like, "Eesh, I'm out of this game." But
See, how in the hell do you own a Cam Neely Boston Bruins jersey for that amount of time, and you don't even go to photomat? This is the thing that drives me insane about collectors. For me, that's the fun part of the hobby, man. How can you not do your due diligence and legitimize the piece? For me, it's not even a real piece until you have a photo showing the player using the jersey. It's just kind of like a myth, or maybe or maybe not.
right,
I don't
right,
get it.
yeah, with a you know LOA from a company that's long gone or something like
Right,
that.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
DTG or something like that. That's
Every single piece that I get in, I always spend at least, I would say, an hour if I don't find something before that, trying to find something. You guys are probably aware of the mannequin I have in the basement with all the gear on it. Every single piece of gear, with the exception of the skates, because unfortunately nobody takes pictures of skates, has been photo matched in some way, shape, or form. So you've got the helmet. The helmet's photo matched to little cuts on the helmet and where the number was rubbing off, or uh, the helmet sticker was peeling off, or anything like that. Scrapes, things. The jersey, obviously, easy to photo match. Um, Pants, it had some stick marks on there. Nice big old puck mark, easy to photo match. The gloves had holes in them, photo matched all that. Everything I even photo matched down to the player's first goal in the NHL. So I mean that tells you how deep I went to find this stuff. But that's the
Well,
fun
that brings
part.
up another point on equipment. What do you guys think is the hardest thing to match? You say skates. Um, I would say goals probably be easier to match just because of the different save pictures. You get the angles. For players, you're just seeing a normal stride. But like sticks, some guys use a stick one game, or the next they'll, between retaping it, or it gets reused, between warm-ups and games. Gloves are pretty consistent, depending on if they were 50 pairs like Patrick Kane. But, I mean, what do you think is the most difficult piece of gear to even try to match?
I
Honestly,
think
with
sticks
sticks,
have
I wouldn't even
sticks have
try.
got to be the hardest part to photo
yeah.
match.
The problem with
Yeah,
sticks,
I would say sticks are probably even harder to photo match than, like, I have shoulder pads, game worn shoulder pads, and if I see a fight from that year, I'm pretty sure I can match them. But man, some players can go through like 300 or 400 sticks a year. How in the fuck are you ever going to photo match
Well,
that?
here's the problem with sticks: is you never know if that stick was a game used stick or a practice used stick. How you gonna know? The teams
Or
don't
a
know.
combination of both. It could be a combo of both. I mean, I got some sticks photo matched to games, and I have them photo practices from the night, or the game, or the practice the day after or two or whatever. Or they'll be on the stick rack when they, get in and out of the rink or whatever, and I've matched them to that too. So, again, if you got them matched compared to, say, a team sells a stick, because I quote unquote stick, how much value would that add?
I would say a lot,
To a stick, a lot.
a ton, just because you're
Yeah.
proving that it was actually in a game and not in practice, where nobody else can prove that.
Right, right. I think sticks
Would
are
that
the hardest.
compare
Yeah.
with greater than would a jersey, regardless of vintage or just in general, it would just add a great deal just because of they go through so many.
Percentage wise, I would say you're looking 300-400%.
And the sticks are funny too, because it's not like My Gray is monitoring the stick use, right? If you buy something, you buy a jersey. Yes, okay, fine. With modern, there's a lot more jerseys used, but at least you know how many are in circulation. With sticks, there's no. You don't know, right?
I,
Who
I
knows?
I have matches of guys using other players' sticks too. I have a Matt Bradley stick. Matt Bradley using an Ovechkin stick,
Oh,
um,
that's so awesome.
and I have a picture of Chris Simon using Vladimir Malakov's gloves. It says Malikov on the gloves. So I mean, these guys, when they get their gloves dried or they haven't scored in 50 games, they're trying anything. You know.
See, it's funny. I have a pair of Sundin gloves, and they're the same brand, but they're a different model, and they were sold as a pair. And I was talking to the dealer, and I'm like, hey, what the fuck, right? Like, I mean, I don't want to buy mismatched gloves. He's like, no, there's a good chance Sundin used these at the same time. That it happened very commonly. And I was kind of skeptical. I got a good deal on the gloves, so I bought them. And true enough, photo match Sundin wearing two different pairs of gloves, the same brand, in the same picture. So that weird shit does happen. It's so weird. But to photo match a guy's stick to when a different guy's using that's absolutely incredible. Like
You know what might
that's
have happened
really
there, Marco?
impressive.
The palm wore out on one stick or one glove, so he just grabbed another and didn't even care about the model. He
Hadn't
just,
thought about that, and that's really cool. I've never even thought about that before.
yeah,
Or
I
you,
bet you.
or you get the mismatch on the sticks where a righty will snap a stick and he skates back on the bench, and they just toss whatever right-handed stick so he can play or whatever the case is, instead of having a short-handed break or an on-man break or whatever the case is, on the deep. So I mean, yeah, sometimes sometimes the equipment guys can pull the exact model off, or sometimes a guy on the bench, hey, I'm a righty, I'm a D, then they toss him the stick or whatever the case is.
Yeah, the one I'm talking about, the Matt Bradley one, is an Ovechkin model, and if you've ever seen an Ovechkin stick, it's his stick. It's not like it just has a name stamp. It has his little insignia, his brand or whatever on it. Yeah, but Matt Bradley has taped it and wrote a 10 on the knob, and he's like,
That's
I'm gonna try and score goals like this dude because he can do shit. Yeah.
I want to know how much research it took you to find that image of
Yeah,
that
I want to
stick.
know. Yeah, I want to know that.
Well, here's the thing. I bought it at a Caps equipment sale, and they said Bradley's for like what, $25 or something like that. So I took it up, and they said, "Oh, this is an Ovechkin. It's 200." I said, "No, look, it's got 10 on the knob." So they said, "Okay, $20 or whatever it was."
Wow.
Yeah. And then of course,
Wait, have you photo matched to Ovechkin using it though?
no, I put Master Bradley's.
So it must have just been his model. He was like, let me
I
grab one of your
probably just grabbed
models.
one of his model sticks. Um, tried it out. He didn't use it much. I think it was only like one or two games I saw him in. But yeah,
Or the other thing I've seen is in the AHL, like players can contract wise only use certain models. So when they go to the NHL, if they don't have their model per se, they'll take a stars that's close enough and do that same thing, or vice versa. Based
Well,
on based on
another cool thing you'll see is like around the trade deadline when guys get traded and they take their equipment. You'll see guys like spray paint their gloves. Like Kanopka did this when he went from Minnesota to Buffalo. He had these, Minnesota's hideous green and red, and he goes to Buffalo, which is blue and white. You could tell that he spray painted them blue. I know another collector that had like blue spray paint on the edge of his jersey from it. Nick Backstrom, when he went to Sweden, took his Caps gloves and spray painted those blue and yellow. So there was blue all over the Swedish jersey. I mean, you'll see that kind of stuff, which is kind of cool too. They don't want to break in a new set of gloves for, the next game they got to play. So they bring all their equipment. They'll wear, different shells in their pants or something like that. You'll see like the old shell underneath it. Those kind of things.
It's
and
funny. Goalie equipment
goalie
goes
stuff,
up too.
you see mix and match with the catchers and blockers too, depending
Yeah,
on
absolutely.
the new, period 1 versus period 2 gloves. But then you see, the goalies will get traded where they're set, the quote unquote match won't be in for another week or 2 for Vaughn or CCM or Reebok to catch up. So they use pad skins now, which is basically like contact paper. So that's another thing that I think is starting to on the regular gears too. So that kind of adds to more of the mystery too.
Yeah, the goalie equipment's kind of a weird and unique thing, especially with players that go up and down from the AHL to the NHL, just because they have to take the pads with them. And the thing I like about that is when a player's at the NHL level, their pads crazy expensive. When they're down in the AHL level, you can get them pretty cheap. So you can very well get a set of pads that was used in an NHL game from an AHL team considerably cheaper than NHL player, which is pretty nice.
And
Which is interesting because most of the time the parent team is the one that's paying for all their. So at least that's my understanding from Chicago is the Blackhawks pay for the Rockford goalies equipment depending on they go to and from. But when you go to the equipment sale, for the most part, the Crawfords and the Ronta stuff is going for the same price listing as like a Carter Hutton back in the day or a Kent Simpson or whatever the case is. Which, again, you're comparing apples to oranges. Where some other teams, they're just going to say pads. We want to get rid of them out. Here's the set price. So I mean, at the Hawk store years ago, Miami rookie pads, Crawford stuff, Wade Flaherty's, and a couple other guys. $800 for a set of pads, regardless if they were just AHL guys or NHL guys. Where now you see sets of pads, they want minimum, $1,500 or whatever the case is. I don't even remember anymore, but it's more being sold as a collectible versus something to be reworn. So I'm curious on how the other teams treat it too. If it's the same mindset or like you're saying, the AHL guys, they're dirt cheap.
It's tough to say.
And a lot of it seems to vary team to team. When you see those sales and the prices they list, because the Blues were doing all their everybody that they had were all $600. Didn't matter if it was Elliott Allen or call ups; it was $600.
Do they have any Brodeur pads? Out of curiosity.
No, everybody was looking for anything Brodeur. There wasn't a stick, a jersey, socks, nothing with his name attached to it.
I heard he took everything with him. Pretty much a gear junkie. So anything and everything. So again, that goes like with sticks from his New Jersey days or even St. Louis days. He marks everything. So what do things that are out there, you're lucky to find them. So I've heard from a few sources that he pretty much with St. Louis got to keep everything or took it with the exception of the few, I think, couple of jerseys that sold on auction or whatever the case. Otherwise, he has pretty much everything.
Now we're getting pretty low on time, so we're going to call it a wrap here. I want to thank you guys for joining. Just so everybody's aware, next week we are going to be on a 1 week hiatus. primarily because I'm going to be in Chicago. So any of you guys that are in Chicago, hopefully we can meet up. I know there's quite a handful of guys that I'm looking forward to see. We had to push Mike McKenna back to the week after next. So that's going to be something to really look forward to. I know we're going to limit how many people we actually have on that call. So for anybody that's out there listening, if you want to get on that call, we are taking limited reservations. And anybody that wants to submit questions for Mike, we'll go ahead, take them, and see if we can work them in. The nice thing about pushing Mike McKenna's date back a little bit is we're getting him for the full hour instead of the half that we were originally planning. So that'll be a really good time. So I want to thank everybody again for joining me this week, and hopefully we'll see you in the week's future. We'll try to get something cool going for people during the week since we do have the hiatus week. So hope you guys enjoyed the show. I'm sure we're going to have some more episodes on photo matching just because there's so much content that we weren't able to get to. So we would definitely be talking more about photo matching in the future. So guys, if you're still with me, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, cheers, man.
And we do have Mike McKenna for a whole hour in 2 weeks. He is available for the whole hour.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that Mike McKenna show. All right, guys. Well, thanks again. And all you guys out there listening, appreciate it. Thank you so much for supporting the show. We'll see you next week. Well, week's future.
Aloha.